You're listening to a Brawl Network production. This is a podcast for the best fans in the NFL.
Are you in the Mafia?
Am I in the what?
It's time for a Bills Brawl podcast.
Second down and 7. Kelly with the time. Touchdown! Bill Brooks.
Allen. Deep shot. Touchdown! On the line to Stephon Diggs.
And Thurman breaking tackles at the 22. Inside the 10. Touchdown Buffalo.
Yes, another edition of the Bills Brawl. I'm Mike Lindsley. Thanks for tuning in, Bills Mafia. You can hit us at Bills Brawl on Twitter and me at Mike L Sports. This is going to be kind of a quick episode, just darting around here as we're a few days into training camp and kind of some of the things that have happened. I'm not obviously there, but, you know, videos and reading and, you know, a lot of the beat guys doing a great job from Joe Biscaglia and Matt Fairburn at The Athletic to Ryan Talbot and Matt Perino at New York Upstate, Sal Capaccio at WGR, and a host of others covering this team. They just all do it so well. And the Buffalo media market is so strong because of these people. And I just kind of have like a laundry list of things to get to and to highlight. I'll just go kind of one after another here. Guest-free show. Just kind of talking about what I've seen and some ideas and thoughts here as far as the roster, you know, the 53-man roster coming together and some of the other things happening, you know, with this Buffalo Bills team. I think number one, first and foremost, is the offense has that look of maybe even being even better than last year, which is hard to believe. We know that they cut John Brown. They pick up Emmanuel Sanders. This offense was one of the top couple in the league last year. They're obviously awfully scary with Josh Allen at quarterback, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Gabe Davis. They add Sanders. Many are expecting a really good, as am I, season out of Dawson Knox. So there are some really, really strong opportunities here for the Buffalo Bills to go banana land on offense again. And the offensive, hope, too, is to have a little bit more balance. You're not going to turn yourself into a running team when, you know, the bread and butter is throwing it. But the hope, I think, is to have a little bit of Zach Moss, a little bit of Devin Singletary, a little bit of Matt Breida when you need him. Maybe Antonio Williams makes this roster as well. And the Bills would have a lot of running back choices, but they're going to need at least some semblance of a running game. And I know the popular topic since last year has been the Bills chasing the Chiefs, What do they need to do? They got to narrow the gap. Bills chasing, closing that gap. It's not that simple, and the year starts over, and we'll see what happens. Kansas City basically remade their offensive line. There's obviously monster expectations for both the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. The Bills obviously addressed the pass rush in the offseason in the NFL draft. I'll get to a couple of those guys who look just fantastic in camp right now as well. But if you look at one number with the Kansas City Chiefs, teams that gave them trouble, teams that beat the Kansas City Chiefs in 2020, and frankly, for that matter, 2019, they had success running the football. A lot of it. I mean, Tampa Bay had success in the Super Bowl. The Raiders had success in the regular season running the ball. If you're going to beat Kansas City, you got to run it at least a little bit. I'm not asking Josh Allen to go from 42 or 43 pass attempts to, 26 just so the running backs can get the pigskin here. But I do think that the Bills need a little bit more out of that group, and certainly I would love to see this team run some more screen plays. Brian Daboll, his major knock for me up until now, I think I'm pretty much done knocking it because he really doesn't use it as much anymore, but it was like the read option, constant read option, constantly having Josh Allen run more, and taking more and more hits. It just doesn't really seem sane to me. But, in the sense that the Bills, have so many offensive weapons and options and receivers and running backs and such an unbelievable diverse playbook where Brian Dable, comes back. The continuity is there. They've all been together now for this is 4 or 5 years-ish for these guys, for this group. And last year, it seemed as though the Bills, at 13-3, clearly the OTAs and the whole Corona stuff and offseason, what you could do, didn't impact them at all. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs have both noted that they they kind of got to be pals over video games, right? And so there's a lot of different ways. Again, it's not the same. I understand Zooming and video gaming and all that. It's not the same as quarterback throws to receiver on the practice field, right? It's not the same as being there, the camaraderie, the boys in the locker room, the camp, messing around, drills together, getting a read, footwork, mechanics. I'm leading him to his spot. Repetition, all those sorts of things, right? Just rep after rep after rep after rep. And these guys are all obviously robotic. But the thing is that I don't know as if these, the OTAs and the preseason and the camp and all this stuff, will it make the Bills a better football team? Will this offense be even better because they have these? I don't know. It's still going to come down to that day, that team, that scheme, that quarterback, that coach, those coaches, that head coach, rather, to, see exactly where, the Bills are. But I don't, again, expect them to go any better than they did last year. There's 17 games now, so 13-4. Is that realistic? Sure. I think also 12 or 11 wins could be realistic, taking it back a game or two in the win column, because this is going to be a hard season. You go on the road, and I know everybody has to go on the road, but, you go back on the road, you got the pressure cooker stuff, Allen, everybody's bullseyeing Allen, everybody's bullseyeing the offense, everybody's bullseyeing the Buffalo Bills. It's no more of, oh, man, you know what? Oh, God, look at the schedule. Oh, my gosh, we got to play Pittsburgh, right? Like, we got to play New Orleans on the road. Man, we got to play against Atlanta. We got to play against the Washington football team's defense. Nah. Those teams also have to play the Buffalo Bills. And I think that's a big thing here as well. I will say, though, that the Bills, out of their first 6 games, I'd love to see a 4-2, possible 5-1 mark going into the bye week. The bye week comes early this year. Week 7, not a fan of that. The only positive part, though, is you play on Monday Night Football. You get done with that. Short week normally, but in this case, you're resting the entire rest of that week. You can always give somebody, that any day that you might lose in terms of workouts, this and that, you just use it as a film day. And then you have the whole week after that to rest up and get back. And then it's Sunday, October 31st, the Halloween game against Miami. The Bills have 4 straight 1 o'clock games. And I'll probably do a schedule breakdown later on as well, couple it kind of with my preview of the season. So stay tuned, get ready for that. And I'll probably do some crossover with the ML Sports Platter on that as well. But, you get Miami, you get Jacksonville, you get the New York Jets, you get Indianapolis. Those are all 1 o'clock games right out of the chute from the bye. And so, if the Bills can somehow go 5-1 in that first 6 group, that would mean, probably you need 2 wins against 3 wins against KC, Tennessee, Washington, Pittsburgh. Those are the big 4. Then you have conference game at Miami, and obviously Houston you should kill at home. With or without Deshaun Watson. But, you get those 4 1 o'clock games out of the chute, and then it becomes challenging. Primetime Thursday, primetime Monday, late game in Tampa, TBD with Carolina. Then you got 3 1 o'clock games to end the year. New England on the road, Atlanta at home, and the Jets, at home. And oh, by the way, it should be duly noted that those 4 games that, happen after the bye, if the Bills can somehow sneak in like a 5-1 record there, even 4-2, and then go 3-1 in those 4 leading up to that last stretch, that'll be a tough one. It'd be pretty amazing to be 8-2, 7-3 going into that Colts game, going into the Saints game. That would be ideal. Let's have a look at some other things going on with this team in training camp here on Bills Brawl. I'm your host, Mike Lindsley. Let's dive into the roster, who's done what we've seen, etc. I got to tell you, I mean, I think that Jake Kumaro could be, this year's version of Duke Williams in terms of route running, productivity, really, really good hands. He's better than Duke Williams. Aaron Rodgers was pissed that the Packers let him go. Remember, the Bills got him last year. He caught a touchdown that I think they either had waived him or put him on the practice squad, one or the other. But anyways, not there. And I think Kumaro's awesome. I do. I think he's a really, really, really nice complement to what they already have. He just adds more versatility. He's a better route runner than Duke Williams. His hands this year in camp have looked fantastic. So again, he's just a part of this offense that's been unbelievable. The offensive line, we haven't seen guys yet, just all together in game form, obviously. But I think this offensive line is going to have a very, very good year. One guy who's been standing out big time has been Cody Ford, who's just absolutely rolling people. Darrell Williams has been kind of, hit and miss, etc. They're just kind of waiting on guys, and there's a lot of players, by the way, too, who are, doing this veteran day off rest thing, which I like. I think that's a great idea. But, the Bills with their offensive line, I mean, it's such a huge thing on the left side of that, line, that blind side. It's such a huge advantage, not only to have your, freshman or franchise quarterback and have your, franchise wide receiver in Allen and Diggs, respectively. Left tackle is a big deal in this game. And Deion Dawkins on that left side, he's a staple, and he's just a complete and utter wall. And, he's going in now to, a season where I think there's some serious expectations, obviously, for Deion Dawkins. And I think he's going to have a great year. He's still obviously under that contract. I'm very interested to see, 53-man roster-wise, what happens with Spencer Brown and Ike Butker and some of these guys, right? And, I think Mitch Morse, his health obviously is paramount. Feliciano can play multiple positions. He can play guard. He can play center. We'll see, the Ryan Bases, the Forrest Lamps, those kind of guys should be fascinating. I think the O-line is going to be real good. I do. Defensively, a couple of guys really standing out here. We haven't seen a ton from Jerry Hughes, but there's 3 or 4 guys here I want to bring up. F.A. Obata, all the film on this guy, he looks like he has got an extra jump, an extra go at all these plays. Just busting through the line and creating havoc in the backfield. He's making a major case to make this roster. You look at the 2 guys they picked up in the NFL draft, the first 2 picks, they addressed the defensive line, obviously heard all the chirping from every possible angle in terms of got to go get Mahomes, got to get the Chiefs, got to chase them, got to And that's true. They do need a little bit more of a pass rush. And again, I don't need this team to be 85 Bears good. I don't need them to be a 70s Steel Curtain team. All I'm saying is just be a little bit better. If they get a little bit more defense and the offense is the same, the Bills will be scary. And Greg Russo, with Jerry Hughes out, Greg Russo has had, as has Boogie Basham and AJ Epinesa, although they're counting on Epinesa, regardless, but I guess you can kind of rotate him in more and have extra reps. Here's the thing, as opposed to Hughes, Epinesa, it's like Epinesa and these other 2 guys and these 2 rookies. And so they're getting a lot more of these rep times here early going, before we can get the full Jerry Hughes. And I tell you what, man, these guys are killing it. They look unbelievable. The moves, the mechanics, the hands. Greg Russo didn't play last year as well. He looks fresh. I think both of these guys are superior athletes. Their footwork is through the roof. And I am really good friends with someone who's close to the Wake Forest program. And we were playing golf about a month ago. And he said to me, hey, what do you think of the Bills? This and that. And I chatted with him a little bit about it. And he goes, Boogie Basham's the real deal. And he went on and on and on talking about him. So that's got to make you feel good as a Bills fan. Vernon Butler, good motor early on. And I think one thing, and it will be interesting too. I mean, you've got Justin Zimmer battling. You've got Harrison Phillips. Who's going to be the odd man out here? But there are a lot of guys, I mean, rest-wise, who seem to be primed for big years because they, Rousseau didn't play last year. Star Lotulelei. I've heard that name so many different times. Star Lotulelei is what I say. But you have a situation here where the rest could be big. And then the secondary, I mean, the story that everybody wants to keep talking about is obviously, the second corner. Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde are in their period end of discussion, no questions asked. Their backup will be, Jaquan Johnson. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the number 2 corner spot. You got, the slot situation happening as well. Taron Johnson, of course, some unbelievable plays last year in the regular and postseasons. Had that incredible 100-plus yard pickoff of Lamar Jackson, took it to the house, and, made that great pick and score at the end of the first half against the Steelers. The 2 difference-making plays of those games and probably of the season, no question. Just game-breaking, pendulum-swinging type deals, plays for Taron Johnson. But he'll be in there in the slot. And it's funny because, a lot of people think right now that a weak spot for the Bills is corner after Trey White, right? But if Saran Neal can take a little bit more of a jump and Taron Johnson keeps playing at a high level, and Rashad Wildgoose, who I really, really like, I think he's going to be terrific. Rashad Wildgoose, who was taken in the 6th round, from Wisconsin, they have big plans for him, I think, as in terms of like a slot backup / he could take over for Taron Johnson. And I mentioned the safety position. I mean, Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, right now, the backups, Jaquan Johnson and a guy in DeMar Hamlin who, look, he's a rookie, but man, the size is great. I mean, he's 6 foot, 6'1" taken in the 6th round out of Pittsburgh, but he's, 205, 210-pound kid who's really got a lot of upside. And I think the Bills, if they can get just a little bit more defensively, right from the beginning, right from the front, with the pass rush leaking into the linebackers, Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, Bills fans still waiting to see what happens with Tremaine Edmonds, if he's going to have a breakout year anytime soon. A.J. Klein is on this roster. Again, you're going to have battles with Zimmer and Phillips, who will make it in that group of Vernon Butler. But right now, F.A. Obata is making his chance. He's making his stand to get a spot on this roster. A guy I'm really looking at, and I haven't heard tons about him in training camp as far as making huge plays or looking explosive, what do you do in the offseason, whatever the case may be, is Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver, I think this year, if you asked me if the defense takes the next step, where they get a little bit more productivity, sacks, they're ranking team defense, team running defense, team passing defense. If those things jump up a little bit, the Buffalo Bills defense should be very, very formidable. But it starts right up front with the pass rush, letting those linebackers get moving, and controlling, end to end. Milano, great tackler. When he's healthy, he's a major difference maker for this team. I think Tremaine Edmonds is going to be fine. It's still, again, mind-blowing that Tremaine Edmonds is still only 23 years old, 4-year pro. So we'll see what happens here with all these guys. But as far as camp goes, I mean, that's kind of, some of the thoughts that I had, how guys are looking, how they're coming along. Obviously, Josh Allen looks, I mean, he had one bad day a couple days ago, but, for the most part has been just outstanding. He's just pocket presence, the whole thing. The Bills had just put on pads yesterday as I record this, and the defense, again, as I've been talking about here with F.A. Obata and all these guys, they really came to play, looked really, really good. Micah Hyde was all over the place. F.A. Obata continued to completely and utterly disrupt the offensive line. Mario Addison, I haven't even mentioned him. I mean, what a tremendous camp he's had so far. So, look, the Bills are loaded. The Bills have everybody at every spot. They have depth. They have versatility. They have talent. They have mechanics and fundamentals. And by the way, Hyde picked off Josh Allen in the first camp of padded practice. And you're already seeing, the reliability of Stephon Diggs. I mean, this guy is just a wonderful wide receiver. He can really, really do it all. He's just... He's one of these guys, who is, he's your number one, and you just go and go. You keep going to him, Allen completed a bunch of passes, I think, in a row, 3 different times, and all of them at least once, was an attempted throw and reception to Diggs. When you complete consecutive passes on this roster, it's a good chance Stephon Diggs is going to have one of them, But he was all over the place. I mean, he was burning Dane Jackson. He was burning White. He was burning Wallace. So I think that Diggs is just, and he's hungry. We know that he was out, on the field looking at the Chiefs celebrate and all that. But those are just some of my training camp thoughts as of right now. Love the defense. Love the tenacity, love the focus, love the offense looking like the juggernaut that it was last year. Allen, superior. They look like they're having fun. Obviously not being at St. John Fisher, they can sleep in their own beds. So this is a good training camp for the Bills, and especially, last year with the disastrous coronavirus in terms of scheduling and playing and wondering what you're doing, this and that. Hopefully this year we're going to have a little bit of a corona-impacted year, obviously, especially with the vaccination issue and arguments and such. But this year will be much more normal than last year. I'm on Twitter, at Mike L Sports, also at Bills Brawl, all a part of the Brawl Network. Thanks for listening. And as I always tell you, enjoy the games.